In this video, we teach you how to go from beginner to intermediate in West Coast Swing. What's up, gang? It's Brian B., westcoastswingonline.com. We are bringing this video to you alive from the lockdown due to the coronavirus here in Louisville, Kentucky. So we're talking about how we go from beginner to intermediate. So I've got a couple of topics, but since we're doing this live, if you guys have any specific questions, if you've tuned in, I'm sure that there's something that's bugging you, and that's what we're here for, to number one, teach you some stuff to move from beginner to intermediate, and number two, maybe to entertain you a little bit. So I've got a list of things I want to cover, but if you've got some questions, please type them in. My friends are behind the camera. So one of the biggest struggles we get is people say that they struggle to stay on time as they scale up their patterns, right? So a good way to think about West Coast Swing is I have three core patterns, and because I'm a leader, I'll talk a little bit from the leader's side first because that's my natural side. But leaders, we have sugar pushes, right? We have side passes, right? And we have whips. So if we use those as our workspace, pushes, passes, and whips, and we use that to make sure we're going to stay on time. As we scale patterns up and you get to more intermediate and beyond patterns, one of the things I want you to look at is this pattern a push, pass, or a whip? Cool beans? So that's number one. Second part is staying on time. So if we counted a sugar push as the leader and followers, you can do the reverse footwork. The numbers work the same. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So we need to stay on time with that. So one of the things that happens is the patterns get more difficult, and a good way to think about this is thinking about West Coast Swing in 2-beat increments, right? So this is going to kind of blow our minds, but I figure if you're here, you're struggling, we're going to try to cover some of the areas that you struggle with, and this is the first thing that I came up with until I get a question. So leaders, I'm going to count my sugar push in 2-beat increments. 1, 2, then I have a triple step, 1 and 2, then I have an anchor step, 1 and 2. So do that with me. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. If I dance a side pass, like an underarm turn, a right side pass, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Do it again. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. If I did a whip, and I'm going to get around to how this is important. If I did a whip, we have 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2. So what I want you to notice is within a pattern, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are always whole beats, right? If I did a whip, because that works in a nice 8-beat segment, if I did a whip, 1, 2. Now I'm going to count all the numbers. If I did my 3 and 4, 3 and 4, that's a whole beat. If I walk my 5, 6, 5, 6, that's a whole beat. If I did my anchor step, 7 and 8, that's a whole beat. But as our patterns get more complex, it kind of gets hard to keep track of that. It gets hard to keep track of that. My brain didn't work for just a second. So what I want you to think of if I count my whip is counting every 2 beats. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2. And if I bring Miss Megan in to demo a little bit with me, that way followers can follow along, right? If I dance my push, pass, and a whip, counting it in 2-beat increments. Sugar push, right side pass, whip. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2. So now we're going to go crazy. We're going to dance a bunch of different patterns. I want you to focus on the fact that 2, 4, 6, and 8 are always whole beats. And if I use that 1, 2, 1, 2 kind of feeling, a rhythm in me, it's going to work. I'm just going to pick weird stuff. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So if you watch that on slow motion, thank you, Miss Megan. I don't think I need you for the moment. If you think about everything, we're going to make this up as we go. If you think about everything in 2-beat increments, that is a big key to staying on time. Now, if we really dig into that and you're kind of nerdy and you want to get really good, one of the ways that I recommend that you can do that is to focus on as soon as you're comfortable, I'm going to assume that we're comfortable with our basic patterns, because if we're not, right, I want to practice my push, my sugar push, my pass, and my whip as the leader or the follower, whatever your natural role is. But behind that, let's say you're comfortable with that. You want to get really good and scale up your ability to lead and or follow. I recommend you go back into a beginner class, and if you're interested, I've got a free, well, actually, you can Google our free beginner video, West Coast Swing Basics, and you'll find the one that looks like me and Megan in red shirts, probably this red shirt. And go ahead and learn the other part of the basics. So if you're a leader, you're going to go ahead and learn the follower's footwork. Now what that's going to do is that's going to basically make you a teacher. So as a leader, right, I have to teach the followers, and in fact I teach a lot of followers because they're dancing with me as their instructor. So I have to know their footwork. I know right where they are in each part of the pattern. That really allows me to be a stronger leader. On the flip side, Miss Megan, Miss Emily, when they teach leaders, they have to know the leader's footwork, right? So they know from the follower's side where the leader needs to be in their patterns, and that allows them to follow the patterns better, right? And everything comes from that push, pass, and whip. So as you scale up, you want to master those 3 patterns to understand your timing within the patterns, right? Those 2 4s, 6s, and 8. 1, 2, right? 3 and 4. Know where that pattern, where that step is in the pattern. 5 and 6, and be really good with it. You can also practice all, which works really well while we're on lockdown for the coronavirus, dancing those patterns all by yourself, especially for the followers. Followers tend to shut their brains off a little bit because the leader is leading everything, and when they dance with a good leader, they feel super comfortable because the leader is making up for what they're doing. So you probably have no partner now. Go ahead and practice your push, pass, and whip by yourself. Now, my friends are laughing behind the camera, so I have to imagine that there's either a question or some ridiculous comments coming in.
We're singing all by yourself.
They're singing all by yourself because we're in lockdown for the coronavirus. So, if we have no questions, one of the other things we get from beginners, they don't want to look like beginners, right? So without going into some crazy styling, one of the things we get quite a bit is, I don't want to look stiff. How do I move smooth? You look like you move across like you're an ice skater. So how would I move smooth? So if I'll do this from the follower side first, since I did the last segment from the leader's thought process. When I'm moving forward, I want to be able to progress my weight through my foot. Now it doesn't matter if I take a heel lead or a toe lead, I want to be able to progress my weight smoothly through my foot. We call this rolling through your feet. So if I walked forwards, I would trace this foot and I would strike my heel. This is not a rule for West Coast Swing, but it's just a natural way to do it. And I'm rolling my weight through my foot as I take each step. Now, if I were going to move backwards, it's the exact same thing in reverse. Instead of just clunking back onto a flat foot, I'm going to roll my weight, roll from the ball of the foot into the heel of the foot as I take my steps. So you're going to find when you do this slow-mo, you have to be conscious about moving your leg out in front of your body, right? It's not that I move my leg out and move like that, but that my leg tracks and one, and then my weight moves slowly through that. Obviously the music is faster, but that's your concept of rolling through your feet. If I move back, I want to roll through my feet. Now, if you're watching this live video because you got nothing else to do at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, or wherever you're watching from. Some people have been online from Singapore and Australia and all over the world, literally. We did Brazil. That's cool. Well, I think we looked in our analytics and we saw 20 some odd countries recently had watched one of our videos. That's pretty cool. So we did this last night. We talked about triple steps, ways that I can practice alone. So same thing, and I'm going to do this behind. If I'm doing a triple step, if I did this flat-footed and I don't think about my foot, I will be very plotty, right? We see this with beginners all the time. They dance and it's very plotty and they think this is a stupid dance. And it is right now. It's weird. But if I think about rolling through my feet with my triple steps and I roll, 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 taking weight into the ball of the foot and lowering the heel slowly, this will tend to add some style and some smoothness to your dancing, right? So then you can go ahead and imply that, whether you're a leader or a follower. If I go follower, sugar push, I roll, roll, I roll into my feet and roll into my feet slowly. And if I do that from the, I guess the leader's perspective works from the same side. As the leader, I don't just plop back, but I reach this foot and I roll into my foot, roll into my foot, triple triple, and when I step forward, I can either step heel lead or toe. Either way, I'm rolling into that step, triple step. So I'm smoothing out my footwork. So we call that rolling through your feet. If you want a video all the way on that, you can just go into, probably Google, rolling through your feet, West Coast Swing. You'll find a web page, videos specifically on that. Do we have any questions from our live feed folks? Come on, join in live feed. We're here for you. I feel like our governor, Andy Beshear, here in Kentucky, we have a pretty cool governor. We call him Mr. Rogers. He shows up on TV every day like clockwork at 5 o'clock. It's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. He's a very calming individual. But I feel like Andy Beshear online every day at 8 o'clock. Cool. So that's my footwork and being smooth. Another thing we talk about is connection. If I steal Miss Megan again for our connection, I'm just dragging her on and off. So, connection, there's a lot of different things. In West Coast, we have 2 basic connections. There's really 3, but there's 2 that I need to master from a beginner to advanced level, to intermediate level. And one is obviously our weight connection, and the other is our towards connection, right? So, that's good enough as it is. If you have a partner, you can obviously do this. If your partner doesn't dance, just say, stand there and see if it works, right? So I'm working between my forward and away connection. Let's assume, if you don't have a partner, you can have a refrigerator door handle, and I can practice moving away from that, and I can practice moving into that. Now, I'm going to concentrate on my weight through my feet as I do that, right? So that's a way, considering a lot of us are stuck at home, but practicing your connection. Now, second part of this is the ability to maintain this connection through our elbows. You'll notice our arms are parallel. We don't want this dreaded W. If you have the W, you need to eliminate that to get to the intermediate level because there's not a lot of good people that have the W. A lot of beginner class people have the W, so we don't hate on it, but that's not the ideal way. So this is going to be down. Now, I want you to practice, and this could be a door handle if you're by yourself, like a refrigerator door handle. I want you to practice maintaining that connection as you move into it and as you move away, right? So I'm going to practice moving in and away. So I'm training my arm to stay connected no matter where my body is, right? Now, Miss Megan will do it just to prove that it's not just beginner's luck for me. Right, so she's maintaining that connection. From a more advanced perspective, I can practice even moving out of the slot to one way or out of the slot to the other, because as I start to get into my styling things, I want to be able to lead my partner up and down the slot without affecting this connection. So Miss Megan will do it, her back to the camera, so she's able to move both sides of the slot without changing the connection. Cool beans? So that is number 3. So we have our staying on time, thinking of everything in 2-beat increments, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, and Megan's just sliding away until I make her come back on the camera. Number 2, we talked about our footwork, right? I want to be smooth. Beginner dancers, as you move to the intermediate level, you don't want to feel clunky with your feet, or followers clunky with your feet. So I'm going to practice tracking my feet and rolling through my feet. Then I'm going to practice rolling through my triple steps, just drilling triple steps. You can do this while you're in line at the grocery store. You can do this in your living room. You can do this in your bathroom. Not a risky thing. A little weird in the grocery store, but we've all done it. Have you danced in the grocery store?
With the cart.
You're a little shy. With the cart, have you, Miss Emily? Miss Emily has. Benjamin? I have pirouetted and fallen out of an aisle in front of people before and pretended like I was.
I do it in line when there's a line.
Yeah, I do a cha-cha drill. Actually, I do this cha-cha drill when I'm standing, between the aisles as you're going in, and there's the candy bars, and I kind of pretend like I'm reading the National Enquirer, but I'm always. So for you guys who are West Coast swing dancers, you guys could roll through your feet. Just practicing this, you'll get a couple funny looks, but hey, it's a good, efficient use of your time. We have a question.
Yes. Is your core engaged and pitched slightly forward during rolling through your feet?
Is my core engaged and pitched slightly forward? If it's not engaged, that'd be those little dolls where you push the button and they collapse. So yes, I'm always thinking about good posture while I dance, right? And then am I pitched slightly forward? So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the word pitch in dancing, I can be pitched forward, I can be pitched back. This is an efficient place. If you think athletically, I am pitched forward all the time. So whether I'm dancing forward, I have a forward, I like to use the word presence, a forward presence. I have a forward presence, whether I'm moving forward, and I don't move back with a backward presence, I maintain that forward presence, even if I'm the follower. I maintain a forward presence whether I'm moving forward or back. It's also good to think about maintaining a forward presence while you're rotating on a foot. That's a common thing. If we kind of segment that into turns, that's a common place to think I have a forward presence because the ball of my foot lives in front of me, and this gives me some balance. There's not much on the back side of my foot to help. So whether I'm leader or follower, whether I'm moving forward or back, I have a forward presence or a forward pitch, right? You can also think about this. Can I steal you, Miss Megan? And this is a little bit more, but again, we're trying to get to the intermediate and beyond level. As we are connected away, if I was stuck together like a board, the only way to connect away would be to sling my shoulders away. And then I have a backwards presence or poise, and Miss Megan would have a backward presence or poise, right? What I want to do is I want to think about my hip weight moving or my center, right? Depends how you want to think of center, a low center moving back, right? If my center or my hip weight is moved slightly back, so now Megan has a forward presence, so do I, but yet our centers have allowed us to be connected away. 1, 2, 3, and now it will be like our higher center that would cause us to be connected forward. And then even as we connect there, I'm still settling through my hip weight into that to be connected away. And you can kind of access that through this drill. Like one of the things I do with my students here to see if they're connected, because we can feel connected, right? But if I were to sit down into this, I don't want to let the connection away, right? So if I have this connection and then we start to sit back, we should be able to bottom out. Miss Megan's more flexible than me. She's younger. She used to ice skate, right? And we're connected away. You don't want this as her knees pop. You don't want this to happen. This is my center collapsing towards her, right? We want to think about this pulled away as we sit back, and we should be able to bottom out the connection. Cool? There is where you'd be poised when you dance. Another question. Love this.
Can you go in a little bit of detail on how the rolling through the feet times with the lead? Because if you're plotting, you're landing on the one, you're on the one.
Good. So the question was, can we talk about timing rolling through the feet with the lead? And that has a long answer, but you're here, so I'm going to give it to you. So let's talk from the follower's perspective, right? So as the follower, I want to track, let's say I'm using an inside turn, right? Can I steal you again, Miss Megan? Let's say we're talking about an inside turn, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. That's my inside turn. I'll grab you in a second. You can sit down, right? So if we're using an inside turn as the follower, right, we're going to go 1, 2. So as I'm progressing my weight into this and prepping, as the follower, I want to know where that magical place is in my foot that I feel comfortable to turn. 1, 2, E and till I'm in a good position to be able to turn, right? So that's why we have to master our own footwork and the timing of our feet through a pattern, right? So as the follower, I want to understand how to get to my foot on the right beat of the music at the right time. Now, on the flip side, you've got a leader that's leading. They could be in perfect sync with you. They could be a little fast. They could be a little bit slow. So now we have to start to adjust and make up for what's, can I steal you again, Miss Megan? Now you have to know yourself, your own body, the timing of your feet. And now you have to make up for the fact that 1, 2, the leader is now leading at the wrong time. Megan's going to let this happen, right? She's going to use what we talked before. She's going to let that connection happen. The leader's leading early, but she's still getting herself ready to turn. Once she's ready to turn, she fires the turn, and I think I'm freaking awesome as the leader because I think it was me. But really it came from the fact that she was managing her own weight through her own foot, 1 E and a 2 E and I'm leading early. I'm a bad leader. I'm just a beginner trying to become intermediate. Stop picking on me. 1 E and a 2 E and the leader's leading incorrectly, a little fast. She's still managing her weight through her foot. When she's ready to turn, she turns. Does that make sense? So that's typically, and again, threading back to the 2, 4, 6, and 8, that's typically going to happen on count 2, 4, 6, and 8 of a pattern. Typically, right? That's when, if it's a sugar push, 1, 2, and you start to feel the hand go, you go, oh, hey, this is a side pass. Does that make sense? But I think timing out your patterns, another way to do this, we did this last night. What was the class called last night?
5 ways to practice a
5 ways to practice alone. We did a drill where we practiced everything half time. So I would do 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a mind meld. But if you did that, if we did a sugar push to make it easy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you did something like that, what you would do is you could still dance to music. You're going to be 50% slower than dancing to full time. It's going to give you a lot of time to feel your weight through your feet. In my experience, that becomes really hard to do if you're a beginner just struggling. But if you're asking the question, you really want to get there, that is a great thing to do, especially since we're on lockdown and we have nothing else to do and you probably don't have a partner. Cool. Any other questions? No other questions. You got me for a few more minutes. Fire off questions, kids, because I'm kind of through my general topics. Oh, I feel them coming in. YouTube's got a question.
Says, I'm a beginner West Coast swing dancer. It appears that high-level dancers, when they dance, seem to just sprinkle in the basics and mostly free express themselves within West Coast swing rhythm. Is this correct?
So this person said, I'm a beginner West Coast swing dancer, and it appears to me that the advanced dancers just really seem to sprinkle in the basic patterns, and they kind of freewheel around the rest of it. And yes, that is what it looks like. In a lot of cases, that's what it is. And you might struggle to see how well they're controlling the timing of things, but it's actually shocking for me to watch the high-level people do this really creative stuff and see how well they're actually managing the basics in their patterns, right? And let me think of an example for you. Megan and I dance so basic, we're clearly on time. Can I steal you? Yeah.
Basic one?
So let's say Megan has done something and she's pressed away on the wrong foot, right? And I turn her back on this foot, right? I'm turning you back on the wrong foot, right? And you're going to shuffle 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Can we do that again? Get yourself on the wrong foot, ba, ba, ba. And then we have on the wrong foot. Oh, you're on the left foot. And then so Miss Megan is on the wrong foot. She's done some crazy thing. She's faced away, right? Now I have to lead her on 1, 2. But 1 would normally be her right foot and 2 would be her left foot. So she knows that 2 has to be her left foot. So as I'm leading 1, 2, she just steps out on the 2. So what would look like some sort of stylistic mumbo jumbo that they're not adhering to the basics, thank you, dear. They actually know where they need to be on 2, 4, 6, and 8 so well that they, what I say, acknowledge those moments. But yeah, for sure, it looks like they're kind of ignoring the basics except for a few that we can recognize. But it's shocking to see how well within all this mumbo jumbo that they're doing, how well they actually acknowledge where 2, 4, 6, and 8 are in the pattern, and how well the leaders and the followers respect that. Another question.
How important is it looking at each other while dancing?
How important is it looking at each other when you're dancing? That's a great question, and I'm going to give you 2 different answers. Can I steal you? Because we've had this philosophical question. How much should you look at your partner? If you look not at all, we used to have a student, great guy, and he would look never. And if you never look, it's creepy, right? If you look the whole time, it's also creepy.
More so.
Right? So I want to look more often than not, but not all the time. Here's where looking towards your partner is a great idea. We used to call this the old school way as the flashlight principle, right? So if I had a flashlight, it's shined at Megan. So no matter where we're going, which pattern we're leading, right? My center or flashlight tracks my partner. Does that make sense? I think what might make it creepy, so that's for all of us, right? Our centers are faced towards each other. Like if I had a line coming out of the middle of me and so did Megan, as I'm dancing a whip, I'm acknowledging that my partner's over there. It would be not as good to be here, a little bit better so I can see my partner through my center, right? Even where I'm going here, the fact that my center is moving that way, Megan and I do this all the time. We call it using the force, right? Just by the angle of my body, I can start to communicate things to my partner. So good idea is keep this face towards your partner. I've heard Jason Micklick call this the circle of trust, right? You're leaving your partner in the circle of trust. That's a good idea. But if you stare at them the whole time while you're doing it, it's a circle of creepiness.
Especially with that.
But if you stare, even if you're centered towards them and you look never at them, that could also be considered creepy, which would not make you a super sought after partner in your dance community when we have one. Another question.
Yep. So one of the best aspects of West Coast swing is the elasticity or stretch. Any comments on how important this is and how to improve it in your dancing?
So the question was, or it's kind of a comment and a question. So one of the most important elements of West Coast swing is its elasticity and stretch. And the question was, how important is that? I'm very glad you asked that because it is not on my list and it should have been. It absolutely should have been. It is a core part of West Coast swing. So the elasticity and stretch would typically in West Coast swing be, let's say I did a sugar push, right? That there'd be some elasticity in the connection between the partners, between some of the things that we did, right? There'd be an elasticity that goes on, right? So the question is that important? Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up because it is one of the keys, and I can't believe I forgot it. Bad me. As we're moving from beginner to advanced. So the easy way to practice this, step on your left foot is the leader, right foot is the follower. This would be, I'm gonna leave Miss Megan there. This would be count 4 of any 6-count pattern. 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So we're in this position. All we need left, we're very close in this arm. All we need left is our anchor step, right? So we're gonna go anchor. Now as we take this step, if I plod right to it, there's not much of an opportunity to stretch. But we talked about this rolling through the feet, so I'm glad you brought this up. As I roll through my foot, we've covered both keys. Number 1 is rolling through my foot. Number 2 is an ability to maintain a connection through my arm as I do so, right? So that's a good drill, is to dance a sugar push, freeze on 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're beginning a connection right there. 5, and as we roll through 6, we build into the connection. I'll even give you a way to think about this connection. Whatever your favorite connection is, we're going to call that a 10 out of 10. It's a 10 for you. It might be heavier or lighter than my 10, but it's a 10 for you. When we get to count 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's count 4. We're going to count that as about a 5 out of our 10. So we have some connection. As we roll through our feet, we're going to build to a 10 for us, for our partnership. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're at about half of what we want. We're going to use the roll through the feet, and as I roll through the foot, I'm rolling back, creating the elasticity. And then how do I stay smooth? I roll through my feet as I continue. Hopefully that answered the question. Any other questions? That was a great one. Thank you so much.
We have a couple.
Couple.
What do I do when the leader blocks my slot?
What do you do when the leader blocks your slot? So for those of you guys who don't know, here is the slot, right? If I do my job, I let my follower have the slot, and I move myself out of the way. So what do you do when the leader blocks the slot? I'm going to give you 2 answers. If it's in class, run them over. And let me explain. If it's in class, obviously you don't want to be critical of people, but you want to kind of show, if it's a learning environment, you want to show the leader, like, hey buddy, you're not getting out of my space. Because what that does for me as the leader is it makes me aware that, wait a minute, something's going wrong. I better get the heck out of the way to give my partner some room to stop, to come through, right? On the flip side, when you're social dancing, I think this is one of the keys that makes us into better dancers, right? Intermediate and beyond. You want to have the ability to recognize, and by the fact you asked the question, you're going to go, oh, he's not, this happens to you probably all the time, right? He's not getting out of my way, so you're just going to make up for it. He's not getting out of your way, and Megan just makes up for it. So you want to identify what the partner's doing wrong and then just adjust it. Do you have any thoughts from the follower's perspective?
That pretty much covers it. I mean, definitely in class you want to make them aware that they're not doing something correctly, but socially you don't really want to correct too much on the floor because that's not very nice, unless they ask. But for sure, I kind of just adjust as I dance.
Nice and
I
skinny.
might make myself nice and skinny on a right side pass.
Yeah, so you want to adjust to make the dance work for you guys. In a learning environment, you can be a little bit more clear that, hey, buddy, you're not getting out of my slot. Any other questions?
There's a couple, yes.
There's a couple, so we're going to run late for the other one.
Or
That's
do you
cool.
wanna answer
Yeah,
them?
no, we can roll. I'm good.
I have issues with balance. The leader leads a turn and lets go of my hand, especially in a faster song.
Ooh, good one, because this is one of the ideas of patterns you need to know. The question is, the follower loses balance when the leader lets go in a turn. So here's the scenario that's probably happening, and this is the basic turn. The leader's got a hold of your hand, right? Then there's something like this called a free spin, where you're on your own, right? And that just simply comes from mastering your own turn, right? And I'm gonna do this quick, but you wanna be able to dance 1, 2. You're gonna be balanced over this with good balance. You wanna practice from here, staying balanced over that foot, so just stepping and turning. I'm gonna go fast through this because we're running out of time. Next part is I wanna be balanced here. I wanna close my feet for 3. I wanna step back out for and. Then I wanna stay balanced on this foot before I step back for 4, and then anchor step. So your keys are staying balanced on, guess what? Count 2, 3, and I wanna stay balanced here with that forward poise before you step back for 4, anchor step. So it's really mastering your own turn, and we will try to, if you go online, West Coast Swing Online, turns, you'll find a bunch of different resources that will help you a little bit more in detail.
And last one that we have, does the follower come forward as a result of the elasticity?
Does the follower come forward as a result of the elasticity? Yes and no. Yes, would you say yes?
I would mainly say no.
Megan says no, and I say yes and no. So does the follower come forward as a result of the elasticity? What you don't want to get into is the follower bouncing off this into the next thing, right? Because that creates this. Can you do the anchor step with a coaster? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Megan feels like she's getting a lot of elasticity, and she goes 5 and 6, right? And this happens. If you watch, there's no anchor step really. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So she feels that bounce in the elasticity, and look, she's come out forward instead of having her left foot hooked behind. Can you hook it behind the correct position? Right? She has alleviated the pressure and stepped out of it onto the left foot, right? And bounced out of it. So as a rule, you shouldn't come out just because of the elasticity. So that when I said yes and no, there's 2 reasons why you would. Number 1, you darn well know he's leading the next pattern, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, right? There's elasticity, and you go, wait a minute, he's moving, okay, I'm in the next pattern. You're gonna go. Does that make sense? But just because this gets heavy, you kind of have to monitor it during the dance, and you're gonna wait. You know darn well you're coming. Even if the leader is a little late, he might be late by going 1, right? And we dance a hitch, 1 and 2. So even though there's elasticity, you're not, this is the no part, this is why Megan says no, right? We're hanging out on the 1, and then we're coming up and 2. So you have to just kind of monitor your leader in that song to get a sense in the first couple of patterns what's going on, and not just bounce out of the connection. Cool? Those are great questions, guys. Sorry I didn't get rolling with them earlier because they were fantastic. We're going to take a couple minute breaks. We have more.
No, I said if you have any more.
Oh, if you have any more, yeah, so if you have any questions during the week, you can go to westcoastswingonline.com. What's the best way to do this? Go to the bottom to the Contact Us section. westcoastswingonline.com, bottom Contact Us section. Send us an email on that form. And every Friday, we are going to do one video that just recaps all the questions that come in. So anything we miss in the videos that come in via email, we'll just have one random video where we just run through and answer all the questions for the week. So if you have a question, it will land on that video. We're going to change. Get ready for the next class. See you guys in a minute.